Hello, Brian.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm Heitor. I'm spending some time here in Bosque Village, and I'm an economics student. So one of the things that I was telling you that in permaculture I really like the sustainability thing, and that I would love and like to put economics in the sustainability. So the economics of sustainability.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's a thing that I would like to talk to you.
Okay.
How are the things going in economics, in money things?
Great. That's a great concern to me.
Okay. So I would like to start with a question because all of this is about financial education. So there's a big discussion inside of economics about this, and that's what we are going to follow here. First thing's about knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your relationship between you and your money. It's know about yourself. So how do you think how money is important to you?
In some sense, it's extremely important to me, and in some sense, it's not important at all. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I don't need a lot of luxuries. I don't need a lot of things. I don't get status from money. In my younger life, I worked really hard and smart, and I made a lot of money. And what I liked about that was that I could do things with it. So for me, it's the results. I liked helping people. I liked having parties. I liked taking people on trips, and then I liked being able to create things that express my values in society. So for me, money's a tool. I actually prefer to live fairly simply, and so my relationship with money is very different than a lot of people, I think.
That's good. Just another question that a lot of people ask about it, like money is happy. So what do you think about it? You said money is a tool.
Well, for me, a lack of money makes me unhappy because I can't accomplish the goals I want. Of course, when they study money in people's lives worldwide, money does not equal happiness. Now, if you have zero money and therefore you have zero health, you have no security, you can't support your family and your children, you're very unhappy. But up to about a $10,000 level, I believe, after that, people don't get radically happier with money. In fact, money can make your life too complicated, too distracting. It can throw your values off. It can mess up your relationships. And so Mexico, for example, always rates as one of the happiest countries. And yet they have a very high poverty rate. But they have other things that make them happy, like extended families, a good climate to live in. It's a dynamic country that people love. And so I don't think money equals happiness at all, although there's some correlation.
Thank you. You said about goals. Then I'd like to know what are your priorities in life. Priority.
Right. I have different priorities than most people. I've decided not to have kids. Most people that have kids, that becomes a very large focus for them. I want to be a good person, and I don't need the kind of status that some people seek, but I want the status of having accomplished good things for the world. I want to be remembered by people that I did good things, and I have a plan for how to do that. So, so yeah, I have, the years go by. I'm middle-aged now, and I don't want all of my years to go by without me having taken what I believe is a fairly novel vision of how we can design a better culture and implement it. And I guess I want to really advance towards that goal. Now, how much of that I have to succeed at personally is one thing. Like, can I create the community I envision? Can I create the economic systems that are sustainable, that are an alternative to the default world? That's difficult. If I can even express it well, if I can design it well, and then other people can be inspired by it and do it, I'll be happy with that. But in order for me to have a realistic alternative, I have to implement the alternative. It can't just be theoretical. Theoretical things from books don't work. We need to actually do it, fail,
Yes.
do it again, fail in a different way, do it again, fix it a little, figure out how to associate with other people, and build it.
Fantastic. I totally agree. I think that's where permaculture are in these practical things. That's what it. So, be known as a person who are designing a culture, a style, something different that we are living now, and we have a famous phrase too, that like time is money. So that
Yeah.
the clock doesn't lie. So
Right.
you're thinking that right now the time that you are giving to the things that you want are being enough, should be more, or can't be more right now.
Well, I'm lucky enough that I was able to work in the industrial world and make enough money so that I don't have to go to work every day. This passion I have is my job, so I can fully dedicate to it. And so time is actually very important to me. I mentioned that I'm getting older and watching the years pass, so I have to implement things quickly. Also, in terms of lifestyle, a lot of people are looking to have all their free time to relax. They want their freedom in that sense to consume. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think it's a disease of the industrial world. Certainly, if we lived in a world that was fully sustainable and the oceans were full of fish and the forests were healthy, we can maybe imagine a tribal way of living where we have very, very little work to do and we can just kind of enjoy life. But I don't see that we're in that position. I see that we're in a position that is extremely desperate, that we're living on cheap oil, that we're high as a civilization on cheap energy, and that we're going to collapse. So we need to think like soldiers and warriors. We need to get up early. We need to work very hard. We need to make sure we're using all of our resources in the right ways to build any kind of future for humanity. Now, maybe it doesn't matter if all of society collapses and civilization dies. Maybe it doesn't matter in the big picture. Who cares? Animals have gone extinct before. But, we tend to be self-interested, that we want to survive, and therefore I would like to make a world that is not just one that can survive, but can thrive, that can be a world that I want to live in, that isn't filled with oppression and pain and sickness and destruction. So I'm not going to relax. And the people that come here, I don't want them to relax and say, oh, okay, yeah, let's just have a good, fun time. Eat, drink, and be merry. I mean, it's tempting. Even as you think about the destruction of civilization, you think, screw it, I'll just have a good time because it's all going to fail anyway. I am not willing to think that way. This gives me something to do, at least. And it's something that I think that we might be able to fix. And so for me, it's a puzzle. So I want to spend as much time on it as possible. With the use of my time, it is tricky because I'm the core person on the project. And so I am spread really thin on thinking about all these different areas.
Okay.
The most important thing then about time for me right now is partnering with other organizations and individuals who can come in and do part of the project. They can take control of part of the project with the right values and the right focus. And that makes it so that I'm not so pressured for time. Because I can't do it all. I cannot do this project myself. The other thing that people can do is donate, and that allows other people to come and be participants here, or to hire local labor that can do the very difficult work of building a diverse forest and maintaining housing and building housing and doing really pretty hard work.
Good.
So donating actually buys time.
That's a good point. From this phrase, I have two things that I would like to ask. First of all, it's about lifestyle that you said. You said something about it, and I mean when we're talking about living in other kinds of way, a lot of people have the first thought that okay, so you're abdicating from comfort, you're abdicating from technology, you're abdicating for all of this, that the actual way we live in, give it to us. So is it necessary, or what we doesn't need to open for to change your life.
So if I understand your question, it's like, what things do we have to give up?
Yes, or what we
yeah.
don't have to give up.
Right. In terms of technology, lifestyle, the things we're comfortable
Yes.
with. I actually have mixed thoughts on that. We do have to give up the luxurious industrial lifestyle based on cheap energy. That's simply not going to continue. It's not an option of whether we feel like doing it. That is going to collapse. We cannot bring everyone in the world up to the standard of living that people have, that they built in civilizations that were based on oppression in many cases and misuse of natural resources. So we know we're going to be giving that up.
No.
But I think we can be happy about that, because we might be able to give up things like mortgages. We might be able to give up things like having the technology that we have to run around taking care of. We might be able to give up working in jobs that we don't want to work in. So there's some technologies, for example, that are helping us to have more free time. There's technologies that are allowing us to use less energy. So I don't want to give up technology. I'm not at all a Luddite. I'm not anti-technology. I want us to seek out and improve and choose the best technology that makes our lives happier as individuals in day to day, but also makes us happy that we're living in a world that can continue living, and one where we don't have so much poverty worldwide, and we don't have people working as almost slaves for us in other countries, so that we can have these great luxuries.
Okay.
So it's weird, and so even here, pragmatically in the Bosque, I do err very much on the side of giving up a lot of stuff, but that's a very specific exercise done here. It's an experiment to see how far away from comfort we can go. How little can we need? I don't expect everyone in the world to take on that experiment. That is a crazy thing I'm doing, and the crazy people that come here are doing. But what I do expect people to do in the cities that they're in and the lifestyles that they're in is to evaluate, where does their food come from? What ecological impact does that have? Is it healthy for them? Are they poisoned in their bodies and going to die of diabetes? You know, so I want them to give up poison, and I want them to gain happiness.
Okay, so that was basically what do you want as a person. So the second thing that's interesting is, so okay, you have all of these things, but so you need to define some objectives,
Goals, right?
Some goals. And right now, what are the main goals that you think you need to be on your objective?
Right. Well, I've had immense luxury. Because I was able to work and make a lot of resources in the industrial world, I had the luxury of having a period of experimentation. And so I got to try a lot of things. I spent money on things that didn't work at all. And of course, a lot of things did work. At this point, I don't have that resource. I don't have that luxury. So when we talk about sustainability, this is the time to actually get financially sustainable.
Yes.
So that means partnering with other people. That means finding people with similar visions who either can be here and do things that actively increase the financial sustainability of the project, or can donate, or we can partner with them. So that is right now the objective. It's been great learning how to live cheaper and poorer. I've enjoyed it. It's a painful, scary process. I mean, what happens when my reading glasses break and I can't read? I can't read my computer. What happens when the van dies? It's dying. I can get burros or something. But there's been an educational process, and it's time to change and basically look for money. I've gone as far out as I can. I have one piece of ID. I have no insurance. I have no future support of any kind. I've put myself into a poverty situation. And they call this land rich, cash poor. Or cash rich, cash poor, land rich. So I've got this wonderful forest, but no income. So that means that's one of the biggest goals. Another big goal, if I'm going to be partnering with people and getting more official with this, is to get more organized. So I need to define better each kind of project area and each of the sub-goals of what this cultural design project is, make videos on each one of those, write about them, explain it, so that people are interested in different parts of it can be attracted to the project and understand the goals. So for example, community projects in local communities, artistic projects, agricultural projects, architectural projects, all of these things certain people are interested in, I have to formalize those to attract the right people and guide them into doing things that are useful together. An additional thing we did with that is we created a nonprofit, and that's to formalize the existence of the organization. Bosque Village has just been Brian doing strange stuff in the woods and planting things and hosting people from all over the world. That was great. That was that phase. Now it's time to make it more official, so we're registered now with the government. We can receive donations. We have a bank account that can help me have insurance for people who are here in case they do get hurt, and basically formalizing the project. That's not something I'm very good at. That's not something I want to do, so I really don't like doing it. You know, accountants and lawyers and things. And so that's something that I, as I define specific roles that people have here, other people can be in different roles, and they can succeed at doing the things they're good at, and I can go do the things that I'm good at.
Okay. Another thing is that Bosque Village exists for 14 years.
14 years, since 2004.
Since 2004. Okay, so in these 14 years, how it was sustainable? In these 14 years, have any income coming in? You said that a lot of times have no income, but in these 14 years, what was the things that you already did? That, okay, that's good, and we have income for this.
Right. Like I said, I had the luxury of this cushion of investment, so I didn't always have to worry about it too much. The first 3 years, I was just building, and I didn't know Spanish, so I had to learn Spanish, and I was trying to figure out how things work here. So the first 3 years were really just getting used to the place, you know. And I sometimes would go to the city, and I tried socially to meet different kinds of people and build the same kind of social group that I had in Seattle. That was difficult to do. After that, we started hosting people here for work trade. Most of those people at that time didn't pay anything. And I don't regret doing that. It's not something I can continue doing. But it was great because I had a huge variety of people through. So I learned about having people in this space and seeing how they act. And I mean a big diversity of people. Different countries, different languages, different value sets, different styles. And I learned what I want, what I don't want, what works and what doesn't. Now, then I've also had paying guests. The truth is I don't really like to charge people to be here. But there are people with plenty of money who are looking for what we have to offer here. They're looking for workshops, they're looking for personal development. And so I welcome those people contributing. I need to serve them better, and I need to tell them how I'm serving them and what they gain. So that's fine. Essentially the project isn't sustainable because I didn't make it sustainable. Now the parts that were sustainable are the agricultural experimentation. I have made some money off of selling agricultural products. And I experimented with, for example, raising rabbits and selling those, and found that I couldn't really compete with the industrial chicken system on price. And I live in a poor area. So I don't have a farmer's market where I can go sell really overpriced products. And so I have to this is a very impoverished area. So sustainability will have to come through other means. And we have a lot of successes, and essentially now I'm being forced into making something that's really actually sustainable, and it's probably a good process.
Fantastic. So there's a difference between a dream and objective.
Objective?
So if we put a dream, the dream will be build some kind of relationship in the world different that we are having now.
Mhm.
That's a dream. But maybe their next objective here in Bosque Village is exactly to put this place economic sustainability.
Yeah, very
That's
much so.
what we need now.
Yep. Other people and economic sustainability.
Okay, these two things, that's the first step right now for keep going on this dream.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking about money propriamente, how much are the things that I mean, solar system, I mean, the compostera bathrooms, the dry baths, and all this system
Mhm.
has a price. They
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, the cost.
And comparing with the system that we already have, how they are, where they are.
In terms of a normal lifestyle
And
versus here,
yes.
life is much cheaper here, and that's one of the goals. It's a very important design goal to make things in simple ways that don't use a lot of energy, that don't need to be maintained a lot. We've had great success on that. We've also had great success on developing a lifestyle that doesn't need very much. So I can have a whole bunch of very happy people here, and I only have a 340 watt solar system. Now, when a lot of people talk about being on solar power and you see a picture of their place, their whole roof is covered in solar panels, they've got enormous battery banks. We don't do that. We're heavily into conservation, and conservation makes a cheaper lifestyle. Composting toilets, they're cheap to build. You never need to hire a plumber. They produce fertilizer. They're the way to go. And so we have lots of successes on how to live simpler and very cheaply. And I don't want to stray away from that. Even if we got a massive, huge donation, I wouldn't want to decide to go, go crazy getting all kinds of technology. I want to keep building things in a natural way. I want to keep focusing on making a real sustainable system that will work without a lot of cheap energy. That being said, a big donation would help a lot because I do actually need a bigger solar power system to have more people here who actually can use their computers. Right now we can use 2 laptops, and have LED lights at night and have internet. Those are very, very important things. But that is not enough if there's going to be 20, 25, 30 people here being productive. They're going to have greater needs. I want to build a better sauna because the sauna is a way to actually save water. We need to build more water storage systems because we don't get any outside water. I mean, we really live on almost no resources here. In many cases, with different types of energy, I live on easily less than 10% of what people in the city do. We don't have a refrigerator, and so we've learned how to live without refrigeration. But there's big costs too. I mean, there's bulldozer work I need to do to improve spaces. We need to build housing. Right now, I can house about 20-something people. I'd like to be able to house 150 people. And so we have to learn how to build in certain ways and then go and do those buildings. There are real costs. I think that some people have this illusion that you can live without money, or if you can move out in the forest and food just falls off trees at you and everything's fine. No, you need a shovel. Your shovel's going to break, and you don't have a mind to then go make your new shovel. I can't make new glasses. You need a new camera pretty much every year. And we use our cameras a lot. I use my computer a lot. My computer's in terrible shape. And so when people have this kind of illusion that they'll escape from the money system, well, I have escaped from the money system to a huge degree. But that doesn't mean it's total escape. And I actually want to go back in the other direction because I would like to have minimal insurance in case I break my leg. Right now, if I broke my leg, what do? Die? Am I going to set my leg? Maybe.
That's the cheapest.
Yeah, it's the cheapest. And so I reject I reject the dominant financial system. I reject the fakeness of money and the way that business and corporations work and government together. But I've gone far enough the other way that now I need to go back and reconnect into some level of civilization.
Good. About going back, in economies, we have a lot of, what I mean, beautiful discussions about that. That's solidary economics, that's buen vivir. There are a lot of theories right now that are really talking about, okay, we have our organization and we do need money, but we don't need to have the relationships that we now have with the money.
Right.
You live in a poor area, as you said, so you have a small town right here. That's Yotatiro.
Right. I have a small town nearby.
And the biggest Ronga.
Aronga is a little bit bigger, yeah.
So how is your relationship with these two towns? And I mean, relationships personally, but how is your money relationship with them?
I think it's fantastic. This is a very poor area. It's a poor state, and there's no work around here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was shy at first. I didn't speak Spanish, and I don't come in as a person saying, "Hey, I have this solution. Everyone here should do this." I don't like that kind of thing. It's a bad attitude. So I was slow in my relationships. I hired people, and that was one way to have connection with people. Probably the best way, because then they see how I'm doing things here, and they learn about caring for seeds, and they learn about things I can know about. I can look things up on the internet. They didn't have internet access before, and most of them don't now. So I can bring in ideas and tools, and then they can learn from that. They've also had the experience of being exposed to a lot of international people, and that's been at least interesting for them culturally. Because, they live in a town where there's not a lot of foreigners coming through. There's none, pretty much. So the relationship has grown over time. I brought money into the system. I spent a lot of money at the hardware store. I really love these towns. I got completely lucky with Aronga. Aronga is an awesome town. It is the best little town that I know of. And I'm accepted. There's been foreigners there for a long time, so there's not a big cultural conflict because I'm an outsider. That's wonderful. It's got just enough stuff and not much more. There's cheap fruits and vegetables. I have a lot of acquaintances and not a lot of deep friends. I am culturally different. There is a communication gap. So, I get invited to people's houses sometimes, and I go eat with them and things like that. But I don't actually have a lot of deep relationships. Partly that came from being a hermit for so long that I think, became less socially skilled. I'm quite shy in a lot of ways. So everybody knows my name, and they also see the videos of what I do in my life. So it's a little bit weird. I'm semi-famous because when I go to town, people can ask me, about like something I'm doing. Like, I saw you doing that. And it's like, how do you know that? Oh yeah, I'm publishing my life.
Oh, my life's on the internet. Yes.
Yeah, my life's on the internet,
Okay.
which is a little disconcerting. But also that comes also as a product of being alone here, is that it's a way of reaching out socially to the world. And so I have a very strange social media life. And when I started doing that, nobody in these little towns had phones, and hardly anyone had a computer. Well, now everybody's got a phone, so they can see my life.
Follow you, yeah.
There's another aspect of that that's very important, and that's the relationship between the participants that come here and these towns. And I feel very protective of these towns. The people I invite here, I don't know them, and they're not invested here. They're not invested in the people here. And so I want to make sure that their actions when they go to town are appropriate. Because they're coming from a very different economic system. And I don't want them to come and take advantage of people. I don't want them to disrupt families. And I have had some cases over the years where I've watched that happen. And I've learned that I have to set limitations on outsiders coming in, because one of my greatest risks is uncontrolled participants.
Okay.
It's a very strange position to be in, because I don't really want to be very authoritarian, but if the project is going to survive and have diverse people coming in, then I have to protect the project, myself, and the community by educating these people to act appropriately.
About education, I think it's a good point. So let's go. We need money for here right now. And do you have ideas? You talked about donations and
Yep.
work. Works being volunteering
Right.
or not volunteer. So what's our big ideas for now?
Sure. Here's the categories of potential financial success. One is donations. That can happen now. You're watching this video. Look it up, bosquevillage.com. You can contribute. We run crowdfunding campaigns. A little bit goes a long way here. So if you share some of the values and concerns about making a better world and working on world problems at a personal level, do it. That's a direct request. Of course, you should be working in your own life, in your own ways, to fix the world. We're going to try and work here to give you ideas for that, to give you support for that. But if you can donate, do. If you know of anybody else who might be interested, spread the word. Like and share, you know. So that's a very important one. Participants paying is a good one. There are a lot of people who seek really interesting experiences like this, people like you.
Yes.
And thank you for helping out while you're here.
Thank you.
And so people can pay at different levels. We do have a work trade program. People can come as long-term volunteers, and they can potentially contribute that way. And so if you know of really dynamic people that you'd like to see in our videos, then say to them, hey, check out this amazingly interesting place, check out these videos, you could go and be a participant. Ideally, I wouldn't have to charge participants very much because I want to look for people who I'm selecting because I want them here.
Of course.
And they have cool projects. But there are a lot of people who can pay, and they should. So that is a potential income source. Another income source is foundations, relationships with nonprofits. That's why we set up the nonprofit, is so we can work with organizations. We're not good at that yet, but if you want to partner with us, we have very creative ideas about how we can work with foreigners and mix them in with Mexicans for cultural interchange, how we can have people come here as students to work on their specific projects. We have space for biologists. We have space for all kinds of disciplines. Also, with regard to participants, it is possible to come here on your own trip. You know, we do have housing. Somebody could come here as a writer because they just want a place where they can mostly be isolated during the day, right? And then they also have a campfire at night and some fun people and some stimulation. So that's possible. It is also possible to come here as and use it as a base for tourism. That's not the core goal of the place, but that is a potential. So that's an option. With the organizations, what we need to do is be proactive and contact the organizations that we think have similar values. And there's a lot of them. There is a lot of money in the industrial world, and there are a lot of wealthy people that have foundations, and they're actually looking for creative things to fund. I've read about some of that. A lot of the projects that they fund are more formal and they're more specific, like get poor people fresh water, you know, or improve agriculture in a certain way, or help a disadvantaged class of people. So a lot of them are more focused. The difference in this project, as we think about working with foundations, is that it's extremely holistic and diverse. Nobody I know of is doing this kind of project. Nobody I know of is looking holistically at every single detail of how we're living and designing a different way to live as a replacement for the industrial world. And not as a bunch of people who are idealistic hippies who think we're all going to live like a tribe in the woods on nothing. We don't want to go back to being cavemen.
Yes.
So we're taking this balanced position. It's really exciting. And so I think for some foundations, looking for really innovative projects that will also give them hopefully good publicity and potentially they can even send their members down to be participants. We need to set those relationships up. That's going to be exciting. One other option is products for making money. Now, I don't think we're going to make a lot of money on products. Most of the products we make are going to be labor intensive to make. We're not going to use a lot of fancy machines. We're not going to do mass production. We don't have slave labor. And so we can't compete on price with China. But we can make innovative products. And the reason to make products is because we want to make the things that we use when we can. We want to show how we can do that. We want to make that efficient. And then we want to test if that works in local towns. If we can get people who are impoverished seeing that they can make their own things, that empowers them. It makes them less of being a trapped consumer. Also, making products is often a just really fun activity. So if we want to do archery, we could buy arrows, or we could learn to make arrows. Arrow making used to be a skill that people knew. It's called fletching. And they would learn how to make good ones. And we've tried to make some arrows, and boy, they're terrible, you know. And so we haven't succeeded there. But we have learned how to tan hides, and we can make rabbit fur hats. And so we want to develop this list of all the products we could make and start going down and deciding which ones we're going to do that make sense for us. Some of those products could be fancy enough to sell well. So we could sell well to the industrial world. Let's say we make wood carvings that are big and fancy and beautiful. Well, we might be able to sell those in Los Angeles, New York, London, Mexico City. So that's an option. And then I make art, I paint, and I do photography. So there is an option that I could get back into doing that. I haven't been doing it as much because I've been so busy doing this. But if that can be a source of income that supports the project, that is an acceptable solution, and I enjoy painting. So I maybe should be selling my art. You want to buy some art? One other potential source of income that I really don't expect will happen is YouTube income. If there's ads on YouTube, then you can actually make money. So if people subscribe and the YouTube channel becomes popular, that could actually make some money. The type of topics we talk about aren't viral usually. They're not that exciting for a huge number of people. Although I have found there's more and more interest in alternative ways of living and energy systems and sustainability. So maybe it could be a really popular channel. So that's a potential income stream. We should probably try and make some viral videos so that more people know about the channel. Another kind of odd potential income source is that even though we're rejecting most all products, we actually pick and review the best products that we know of. It could be a thermos, because that thermos means we can pour hot water into it and then we don't have to heat it up again, and we can have hot tea without using any more fuel. That's a type of technology we can support. It could be a company that provides organic seeds. They could be a sponsor even. So this gets into two areas, one of which is sponsors of products that companies could send to us. We could review them, use them, and the people who come here could use them. Like you might be given your survival pack as a participant, and you've got your correct kind of water bottle, a good pen, a good notebook, you've got your best LED headlamp, you've got your rechargeable solar thing. And so sponsors could send products, and we can also then list those in our wiki and web pages and have affiliate links to Amazon where people can buy those things. The way affiliate marketing works is that if anybody goes to the site and clicks on something like a book that we think is a great book to recommend, then for the next 24 hours, if they don't click on another affiliate link, we actually get a tiny cut of everything that person buys.
Okay.
So they can buy something that wasn't even that link. And so if you're going to be shopping on Amazon, check out our products and see what we review. Even though almost all products we think we don't need, like I don't even think we need to buy shampoo. Although, well, there is actually a really ecologically good soap out there that would be a good sponsor, and I would be willing to send people to buy it. So even though we reject most products, we can send people to that. If they shop through us, then they'll actually be supporting the project at no cost to them at all.
So about financial education, that's what we're talking about. There's a thing that everybody saying, and that's true, that you need to spend less than you receive or less than you have.
Right.
And you do have spending all the time. It's not too much, as you said, but this happens all the time. And for doing improvements, for keep growing, you do need some more.
Right.
So we have talked about here a lot of receiving, and that's fantastic. I would like to thank you. And maybe we should keep talking about a new economy later.
Like different ways of having an economy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do for now.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you. And we keep joking.
I love talking to people because who come through here because they all have a different perspective. You're the first economist who's come through. I guess you're going to go back to Brazil and write your thesis.
Yes.
So yeah, I think while you're here, we'll be talking more about how economic systems work. Because I've read some, and I'm certainly no expert, but obviously something we need to work on.
That's it.
Thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you.
And of course, in your own life, you can think about the economics of what you're spending your money on. One of the phrases that people use is that every dollar you spend is a vote for your way of life. Or in Mexico, every peso you spend is a vote for your way of life. And that means you have control over what world you're creating by how you use your economic resources and also by who you give your labor to and what you're really working for. So I hope we're all thinking about that, and I hope that these are some examples here that inspire you to think about that in your own life.
Thank you.